So, think about what happens when you break your arm.
Right. You go to the hospital.
Exactly. You go get an X-ray.
Hmm.
And that X-ray gives you this really clean, totally unquestionable binary, right?
Yeah, a clear picture.
Right. There is a jagged white line on the film, or there isn't. I mean, bone is broken, or it is perfectly intact.
It's black and white.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Black and white. And we expect the global economy to work the exact same way.
We really do.
We do. We look at the world through this, this lens of strict categorization. You are either a legal, tax-paying business operating in the light,
Right.
or you simply do not exist. But today, we are going to look at a stack of economic data that proves our X-ray machine is just, well, completely broken.
Utterly shattered.
Yeah. We are doing a deep dive into a landmark 2012 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research.
It's a massive one.
Massive, a multi-year tracking project based in Sri Lanka. And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly why the vast, overwhelming majority of the global economy is, well, entirely invisible.
It is the absolute definition of a ghost world.
A ghost world, I like that.
It is, and the scale of it is just staggering. I mean, if you look at developing nations, over 80% of microenterprises operate completely outside the system.
Wait, 80%?
Over 80%. They pay no direct business taxes. They follow no official labor laws. They hold no government licenses at all. 80%. So, if you draw a pie chart of the global working class, the overwhelming dominant slice is just pitch black.
So, the immediate natural question you have to ask is, why?
Right.
Like, why do millions of business owners choose to stay in the shadows?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because the universal assumption, the narrative, we've all been fed for decades, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that these people are trapped. We assume they are victims of a broken system.
Right.
We assume they desperately want to be legit.
That they want the paperwork.
Yeah, they want to be official, but bureaucratic red tape is just strangling them.
That is the consensus. I mean, the narrative paints them as these eager participants who are just locked outside a fortress.
But this study, this specific data set, it shatters that completely.
It really does.
Today, we are going to walk you through a rigorous, high-stakes, real-world experiment that proves a horrifying truth for policymakers.
A total nightmare for them.
Because it proves that even when you make going legit completely free,
Right.
even when you hire an assistant to literally do the paperwork for them, they will still look you in the eye and say no.
They will violently refuse to step into the light.
Violently refuse, and we're going to find out exactly what happens when you finally break down and literally pay them cash to join the system.
We are going to unpack the pure psychology of the informal economy.
Yes. So let's set the stage here. Who actually ran this experiment, and how did they find these ghosts?
So we are looking at work by the architects of modern economic reality check.
Okay.
You've got David McKenzie from the World Bank,
Yep.
Suresh Damel from the University of Peradeniya in Sri Lanka,
Right.
and Christopher Woodruff from Warwick University. These guys are the scientific pioneers of studying the informal economy.
They wrote the playbook.
They did. And they didn't just, sit in an ivory tower running theoretical models.
Right. No dry academic stuff.
Exactly. They ran a literal economic sting operation in the streets of two major Sri Lankan cities.
Which cities?
Colombo, which is this massive commercial capital right on the coast, and Kandy, which is a major city deep in the Central Hills.
Okay, so a sting operation requires targets. Who exactly were they looking for?
They needed the true baseline of the economy, so they tracked down 520 micro businesses.
520, that's a huge sample.
It is. And to be clear, these are not tech startups.
Right.
These are raw physical enterprises,
Yeah.
1 to 14 employees. We're talking about guys covered in grease running open-air auto repair shops.
Okay. Yeah.
Small retail storefronts selling daily goods, tiny manufacturing outfits making metal gates or glass windows in a dusty courtyard.
Right, so these are the people getting their hands dirty every single day just to keep the city running.
Exactly.
But they don't exist in paper.
Not at all. None of them were registered with the divisional secretariat.
What's that?
That is the fundamental local government registration in Sri Lanka. So officially, these 520 businesses were phantoms.
Wow.
And to understand why this specific setup is so historically crucial, you have to understand the twilight of common sense we have been living in.
Explain that.
Well, for decades, the global economic community has been locked in a vicious debate over why these phantoms exist in the first place.
Right, it's a battle between two competing theories of human behavior.
Exactly.
On one side, you have the exclusion theory.
Championed most famously by the Peruvian economist Hernando de Soto.
Right.
De Soto's argument is elegant, and it is incredibly popular with politicians.
Why is that?
Because he argues that red tape is the root of all economic evil. He says the door to the formal economy is locked from the inside.
Okay.
The poor desperately want to enter the club, but the entry fees are too high, the regulations are too heavy, the bouncers demanding a bribe they just cannot pay.
Right, and it's a very comforting narrative.
Extremely comforting.
Because if De Soto is right, the fix is easy. You just fire the bouncer.
Exactly.
You simplify the rules, you cut the red tape, you make an app, and suddenly millions of businesses will flood through the open doors and the economy will boom.
And that exact logic spawned massive global initiatives. Over the last 20 years, governments everywhere have spent billions of dollars streamlining their bureaucracies, trying to unlock that door.
But then you have the competing idea, the exit theory.
The exit theory is much darker. It
Yeah.
challenges that entire narrative. It says the door is actually wide open.
Wide open.
Wide open. But the businesses walked up to the door, looked inside the club, saw the music was terrible, the drinks were overpriced, and the cover charge was a total scam.
Right.
So they turned around, walked back into the alley, and chose to stay out.
So it frames the informal economy not as a trap, but as a rational, calculated exit.
Precisely. A supreme cost-benefit analysis where the shadows are simply more profitable.
Wait, so if it's a rational exit, are we saying these guys are basically running black markets? Because if someone is offering you a legitimate status and you say no, the immediate assumption is that you must be hiding something illegal.
And that is the genius of this study. They wanted to strip away all those assumptions.
Okay.
They aren't looking at cartels or smugglers. They are looking at guys fixing radiators.
Right. Totally normal stuff.
So the researchers decided to test these two theories in reality. They took their 520 ghost firms and they divided them.
They built a scientific gauntlet.
They did, a control group and 4 distinct intervention groups. They are testing the raw DNA of economic behavior here.
They're about to poke the system with a stick to see how it bleeds.
Exactly. So group 1. The researchers decide to test De Soto's exclusion theory perfectly.
Right, the bouncer theory.
They deliver the ultimate cure for red tape.
They make the process utterly, flawlessly frictionless.
Totally frictionless. They visit the business owners. They hand them a beautifully designed, incredibly detailed brochure.
Okay.
It explains the exact step-by-step process of how to register. They provide a trained, dedicated assistant to answer any questions, navigate any confusion, and literally hold their hand through the entire bureaucratic maze.
So total logistical support.
And then the absolute kicker, they promise to completely reimburse the registration fee.
Wow.
In Sri Lanka at the time, that fee was about 1,000 rupees. The researchers say, we will pay it for you.
Free.
It will cost the business owner precisely 0 rupees, 0 financial barrier, 0 informational barrier.
So the door is officially kicked wide open. I mean, the bouncer isn't just fired. There's a red carpet and a concierge is holding an umbrella for you.
Right.
If De Soto's theory holds true, this group should have stampeded into the formal economy. What actually happened?
Out of over 100 businesses in this specific intervention group, a colossal, mind-bending 0 registered.
Wait, 0.
0.
Literally none. Not a single one.
The needle did not flinch. The registration rate was statistically identical to the control group, where the researchers did absolutely nothing at all.
That is a total slap in the face.
It really is.
You hand someone a completely free pass.
Yeah.
You cover all costs. You provide a personal guide. And they look you in the eye and say, no thanks.
It destroys the red tape myth in one single data point. Information and free entry are completely useless if the destination is somewhere you just refuse to go.
But why? I mean, I cannot stress how counterintuitive this is. If someone offers to legitimize your entire livelihood for free, why on earth do you turn them down?
Because, as the exit theory suggested, the party inside the club is terrible.
Right.
But the researchers didn't stop there. They realized the door wasn't locked. The businesses were just refusing to walk through it.
So what's next?
They decided to escalate the experiment.
They introduced the ultimate motivator. Cold, hard cash.
The first crack in the ice. If you won't do it for free, what is your actual price?
They start bribing people for the greater good.
Exactly. Group 2. They offer the exact same hand-holding. the brochure, the assistant.
Okay.
But instead of just reimbursing the tiny 1,000 rupee fee, they offer a direct bounty, 10,000 Sri Lankan rupees.
To really feel the weight of this, we need to contextualize that money.
Hmm.
What does 10,000 rupees mean to, like, a street-level mechanic in Colombo in 2012?
Based on the baseline data they collected, 10,000 rupees is roughly half a month's profit for the median firm in this study.
Wow. So you are walking up to a guy who works 12 hours a day in the heat, and you are offering to hand him 2 weeks of his own sweat in an envelope just to fill out a basic government form.
And suddenly the ice begins to thaw. With that specific offer, the registration rate jumps to 21.6%.
Over 1 in 5 suddenly decide the light isn't so blinding after all.
Right. And what's fascinating here is the psychological shift. This proves definitively that the barrier is not an inability to navigate bureaucracy.
Nope.
It is not a lack of education or information. It is a ruthless cost-benefit calculation.
Everyone has a price.
Exactly. To pull someone out of the shadows, you just have to compensate them for the perceived danger of stepping into the light. The 10,000 rupees tipped the scales for 20% of them.
But hold on. 21% is significant, but it means almost 80% are still saying no.
Yes.
4 out of 5 guys looked at 2 weeks of free pay and just walked away.
Which means the perceived danger of the formal economy is massive. So the researchers raise the stakes again.
Heavy bounties.
Group 3, they offer 20,000 rupees, a full month's profit.
And the numbers tick up again.
Yes, they do. But then they bring out the absolute sledgehammer for Group 4, 40,000 rupees.
2 full months of pure profit
Yeah.
handed to you in a lump sum.
Imagine someone walking into your office right now and offering you 2 months of your annual salary in a briefcase, just to update your driver's license.
That is an insane amount of leverage.
It is.
The temptation must have been overwhelming. Did it break them?
It caused a massive surge. Registrations skyrocketed to nearly 48%.
Okay, so high stakes cash incentive works. Almost half of them took the bait.
The sheer volume of the money finally overpowered their fear of the government system.
But wait, this is where the math gets genuinely terrifying for me.
How so?
If 48% took the 2 months profit, that means 52% rejected it.
Yes.
You offer someone a briefcase of cash equivalent to working for 60 days straight, and over half of them still say, keep your money, I'm staying at Ghost.
This is where the researchers hit a wall. A wall made of pure, stubborn, terrifying human defiance.
Who are these last stubborns? Like, what is driving them?
The researchers wanted to find out just how deep this defiance went. So out of the people who rejected the 40,000 rupee offer, they isolated 9 of the hardest holdouts.
The most resolute ghosts in the entire study.
Exactly. And they made them an offer that completely defies economic logic.
The ultimate test of willpower.
80,000 rupees.
Over 3 months of pure profit. A literal mountain of cash on a table. Enough money to transform their year. And all they had to do was sign their name and become a legal, visible entity.
Out of those 9 extreme holdouts, only 2 took the money.
Wait, 7 of them looked at over a quarter of their annual income in free cash and flat out rejected it.
Yes, they said no.
Okay, we have to pause here.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just stubbornness anymore. Nobody turns down 3 months of free cash unless taking that cash will fundamentally destroy them.
Exactly.
What on earth were they so terrified of?
That is the exact question the researchers asked. They dug deep into the lives and operations of these absolute holdouts, and they uncovered the hidden red line of the informal economy.
What was it? Was it some massive tax evasion ring?
No!
Was it some draconian labor law they were violating?
No, it was something far more primal than that.
What?
It was the physical ground beneath their feet.
Land ownership.
Exactly. Why did they refuse the massive payout? Because they didn't just want to avoid registration. They physically could not complete the registration, and attempting to do so would ruin them.
Break that mechanism down for me. How does land prevent a business from registering?
Well, to register a business with the local government, you need to prove your business physically exists somewhere. You need an address.
Sure.
But more importantly, the government requires documented proof that you have a legal right to operate a commercial enterprise on that specific piece of land.
So you need a deed or a commercial lease, a landlord's letter.
Right. But think about who these ghosts are. They operate on the absolute margins. They have set up their auto shops on unused government land.
Oh, wow.
They have built their retail stalls on temple land. They operate entirely on oral leases.
A handshake with a guy who knows a guy.
Exactly. They pay rent in cash to someone who might not even legally own the dirt.
They're building a business empire on clouds.
If they take the 80,000 rupees, walk into a government office and say, "Hi, I would like to officially register my auto shop located at the corner of this intersection."
The government official will look at a map.
Yes. And the official will say, "You don't own that land. You don't have a lease. You are a squatter operating in an illegal commercial zone."
We aren't registering you. We are evicting you.
Becoming visible would be outright suicide. They would lose their physical location, their equipment, their entire livelihood.
God.
Without property rights, they are forever locked out of the formal economy. It is a dead end. You cannot bribe a man to step into a trap that will immediately execute his business.
That is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we talk about the economy like it's a digital spreadsheet of regulations and tax rates.
Right.
But for the working class, the economy is a physical patch of dirt. If you don't legally own the dirt, you can never exist on paper.
And this brings us to another massive variable in this cost-benefit analysis, the geography of bureaucracy.
Okay, what do you mean?
Because even if you do have a landlord's letter, your experience of red tape widely depends on where you are actually standing.
The researchers compared the bureaucratic reality in the two cities, right? Colombo and Kandy.
Yes. It proves that red tape isn't a neat national standard. It is a highly localized nightmare.
Colombo was the express lane. Give me the mechanics of that.
So Colombo is the commercial hub. The local government there had recognized the need for speed. They had centralized the process.
Okay.
To get your registration in Colombo, it took an average of just 2 days. You made roughly 2 visits to the office. The primary document required was literally just your national identity card.
That's it.
That's it. 85% of the businesses that registered in Colombo told the researchers it was incredibly easy.
That is stunningly efficient. So in Colombo, the friction is practically zero. But what about Kandy?
Kandy was a bureaucratic pinball machine.
Oh, no.
To get the exact same piece of paper in Kandy, it took an average of 8.1 days.
8 lost days of work. For a guy making a few hundred rupees a day, shutting down his shop for over a week is a devastating financial hit.
And you didn't just go to one office. In Kandy, the business owners had to visit an average of almost 6 separate government agencies.
You are bouncing from bumper to bumper.
Precisely. You start at the village officer. He demands a certificate. Then you need a municipal license. Then you have to go to the health department.
It never ends.
And worst of all, Kandy strictly enforced the requirement for that dreaded landlord no objection letter.
The land trap rears its head again.
Exactly. So when policymakers talk about the cost of formalizing, they usually just look at the registration fee, the 1,000 rupees.
Right.
But the true crushing cost is the invisible tax of local bureaucracy. It's the 8 days of closed doors, the lost revenue, the cost of bus fare running around town, the humiliation of begging landlords for letters they refuse to give you.
The system isn't just a passive set of rules. It's aggressively hostile, depending on your zip code.
But let's step back and look at what the researchers actually achieved here. Through pure cash brute force, the 10, 20, and 40,000 rupee interventions, they successfully pulled a significant chunk of these businesses out of the shadows.
Right. The bribe worked for a lot of them.
These guys took the money, they fought through the pinball machine in Kandy, or they breezed through Colombo. They secured the landlord letters. They got the official government stamp.
They successfully went legit.
They stepped into the light.
So this is the moment of truth, because the entire pitch of the formal economy, the fundamental reason the World Bank, the IMF, and local governments are obsessed with getting people to register,
Is the promise of wealth.
yes, it is marketed as the ultimate launch pad to commercial success.
Right.
The state promises that this piece of paper is a magic ticket. The narrative is, you register, suddenly the banks open their vaults to you, the government hands you lucrative contracts, your business scales up, and you transition from a struggling mechanic into a titan of industry.
That is the carrot dangled in front of every informal worker on earth.
So did it happen? Did going legit actually make these Sri Lankan business owners rich?
To find out, the researchers executed a brilliant strategy. They didn't just walk away after handing out the cash.
They stayed.
They engaged in exhaustive, long-term tracking. They went back to these newly formalized firms, as well as a control group, at 3 distinct intervals.
Man.
They checked in at 15 months, then at 22 months, and finally at 31 months.
Almost 3 years of monitoring.
Yes. They are watching the seeds grow.
What exactly are they measuring over those 3 years?
Everything. Monthly profits, total sales, business bank accounts, equipment purchases, hiring rates.
And what were the results?
At first glance, it looked like a massive, undeniable victory for the formal economy.
Wait, the fake out.
Exactly. When the researchers ran the initial regression analysis, looking at the raw average of all the newly legalized firms, their monthly profits had shot up by 13,706 rupees.
That is incredible. I mean, that is more than half a month's original baseline profit added on top of their income every single month.
Right.
The magic ticket actually worked.
It looks like an absolute triumph of policy. But this is where we run into the illusion of averages. The researchers noticed something deeply strange about the data. This massive profit increase wasn't a rising tide lifting all boats.
Okay.
So they decided to run a statistical stress test. They took the data set and they removed just the top 5% of the formalized firms.
Just the very, very best performers. The extreme outliers. You chop them off the top.
When you remove that top 5%, the average profit growth completely plummets. It crashes down to a measly 2,544 rupees.
Which means?
It means it is statistically insignificant. It is noise. It is essentially zero growth.
Oh my God. It's a complete face slap.
Totally.
It's like if Bill Gates walks into a neighborhood dive bar, the average wealth of everyone in that room suddenly becomes $1 billion.
It's the perfect analogy.
But nobody in the bar actually got any richer. The guy nursing a cheap beer in the corner is still broke. That is exactly what happened here.
The vast, vast majority of these business owners went through the hassle, braved the bureaucracy, got the official government stamp, stepped into the light, and their lives did not change one single bit.
I want to visualize this. What does the actual distribution curve look like?
The visual reality is staggering. If you plot a cumulative distribution graph of the profits, one line for the ghost businesses in the control group who stayed hidden, and one line for the businesses that went legit, the lines perfectly overlap.
Like completely mapped on top of each other.
For 95% of the graph, it is a perfect overlap.
Wow.
It only slightly diverges at the extreme right tail. It means that for 95 out of 100 guys, whether they were a shadow enterprise or a proud official taxpayer, their bank account looked exactly the same 3 years later.
Stepping into the light brought absolutely zero financial growth for the working class.
Zero.
Okay, we have to pause and look at the right tail of that graph. We cannot ignore the 5%. The Bill Gates guys in the dive bar, who were they? How did they manage to pull off this massive average?
What is truly fascinating here is that the winners were not random. The formalization didn't magically make them better at their jobs. The study dives into specific illuminating case studies to explain exactly how these guys won. Let's look at 3 of them.
Okay, case number 1.
An auto repair shop. Before formalizing, the owner was just a guy fixing cars in a dusty garage. When he needed parts, spark plugs, radiators, brake pads, he had to buy them at retail prices from local shops.
He's a middleman paying middleman prices. His margins are inherently crushed.
Right. He's bleeding margin on every single repair. But once he got that official registration certificate, everything changed.
Why?
Because the major national auto parts manufacturers in Sri Lanka have strict corporate policies. They will only grant official distributor status to legally registered entities.
Ah, it's a corporate gatekeeper, not a government one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He took his new piece of paper, flashed it to the corporate suppliers, and instantly became an official distributor. He bypassed the local shops. He unlocked deep wholesale pricing. His margins exploded overnight. Within 3 years, he took those profits, expanded his physical garage, added a customer waiting room, and grew his workforce from 2 guys to 8 full-time workers.
He didn't just get a piece of paper. He unlocked a very specific, tangible commercial door. The paper was the key to a supply chain.
Precisely. Now let's look at case 2, a local sawmill.
Cutting wood.
Cutting timber. When he was a ghost, he had a massive geographical problem. If he wanted to sell wood to a large client in the next town over, he had to load it onto a truck.
And trucks have to drive on public roads, which means police checkpoints.
Constantly. In Sri Lanka, transporting timber across municipal lines without official forestry permits is highly illegal. It's an anti-poaching and logging measure.
Okay.
So as an unregistered business, he literally could not get the permits. His trucks would be seized. He lost a huge chunk of potential business because he couldn't legally move his physical product more than a few miles.
He was a prisoner in his own zip code. His market cap was defined by how far a guy could carry wood on his back.
But once he took the cash and registered his business,
He got the magic stamp.
he got the official registration, which allowed him to apply for the official Forestry Service stamp on his receipts.
Oh, that changes everything.
Suddenly, his trucks could cross municipal borders without police harassment. His addressable market size literally quadrupled overnight. He could bid on jobs in the next city.
Again, a highly specific operational key. The piece of paper solved a massive logistical nightmare.
And case 3, a small-time fish vendor.
Just a guy selling fish in an open-air market.
A guy with a cart.
Mhm.
But he was smart. He took the 40,000 rupee grant from the researchers, and instead of just pocketing it, he bought a freezer to maintain his stock perfectly, and he got his official business registration.
But what does a guy selling fish out of a freezer do with a government registration? The fish don't care if you pay taxes.
The fish don't, but high-end restaurants do. Think about the accounting department of a major formal restaurant or a hotel in Colombo. They cannot buy fresh supplies off the books from a guy in an alley.
No, they need a paper trail.
They need a pristine paper trail for their own corporate tax audits. They need an official, legally recognized receipt with a business registration number on it.
So our fish vendor walks in through the service doors of a luxury hotel, points to his fresh, deeply frozen stock, and says, "Not only is my product great, but I can give you an official tax receipt."
He locked down massive, high-paying corporate restaurant contracts. His profits went through the roof because he could suddenly service the elite tier of the market.
Notice the stark pattern here. These guys were not saved by the system.
No, not at all.
They didn't get a government bailout.
No.
The state didn't do anything for them.
No.
They used the registration paper as an offensive weapon to hunt bigger game, wholesale parts, cross-border shipping logistics, elite corporate clients.
If your specific business model does not inherently involve hunting those specific things, the piece of paper is completely worthless to you.
Which brings us to the bursting of the ultimate bubble, the grand lie of formalization.
The myth of bank loans.
Every single policy paper, every politician's speech says the exact same thing.
Right.
Register your small business so you can enter the financial system. Register so you can get a bank loan to buy new equipment.
Right.
Register so you can win lucrative government procurement contracts.
It is the ultimate carrot they dangle in front of the informal economy globally, the promise of institutional leverage.
So let's look at the actual data. 31 months later, what did the researchers find?
The regression coefficient for the impact of formalization on getting a business loan, negative 0.004.
Wait, negative?
Statistically exactly 0.
What about government contracts? Did the state reward these newly legal citizens?
The coefficient for obtaining government contracts was 0.00.
0.0.
The impact on participating in government small business support programs, 0.05, which is completely statistically insignificant.
It's a mirage. The promised land of state and financial support simply does not exist for the micro-entrepreneur.
It really doesn't.
You walk through the desert, you endure the 8 days of bureaucracy and candy, you finally get the official stamp, you walk proudly into the marble lobby of the bank, and the loan officer still looks at you and says no.
Because a bank doesn't care if you have a registration certificate if you don't have collateral.
If you don't own the land,
If you don't own the land, we are right back to the hidden red line. A piece of paper doesn't magically create financial leverage out of thin air.
so what actually did change to the 95%? If they didn't get rich, if they didn't get loans, if they didn't get contracts, what did the paper actually do for them over 3 years?
Out of more than a dozen different operational metrics tracked by the researchers, only 2 things actually changed in a statistically significant way.
Give them to me.
Number 1, the use of formal receipt books went up by 35.2%.
Okay, that makes sense. They are officially writing things down. They have a paper trail.
Number 2, spending on advertising went up by 26.1%.
Wait, advertising. They started running ads.
Yes, handbills, signage, local newspaper spots.
That is deeply fascinating because that isn't an economic shift. That is a psychological shift.
Think about the mechanics of being a ghost. When you are operating an illegal, unregistered business, your primary operational strategy is camouflage.
You hide. You don't put a giant glowing neon sign above your door if you are terrified of the municipal tax inspector walking by.
Exactly.
You don't take out a full-page ad in the local paper announcing your exact location and services. You rely on whispers, word of mouth. You stay small on purpose.
But once you have that piece of paper, the fear vanishes, you can finally shout.
You bolt the neon sign to the roof. You hand out official receipts with your business name printed on them. You exist out loud in the physical world. That is the only real change for the vast majority of these people. The removal of fear.
So we have to synthesize this. Because if the promised wealth is a mirage, and the only real benefit is putting up a sign, why do millions of people stay in the shadows?
Right.
Are they just uneducated? Are they ignorant of how modern economies work?
That is the incredibly arrogant assumption of policymakers. Oh, these poor street vendors just don't understand the benefits of our brilliant modern system. We just need to educate them.
But the data shows something completely, radically different. Remaining informal is not a result of ignorance or stubbornness.
It is extreme, ruthless, rational math.
It is an optimal survival strategy executed by people who understand the system perfectly.
Let's do the math. Let's build the balance sheet for a micro-entrepreneur in Sri Lanka.
Let's do it. If you step into the light and become a formal legal business with employees, you don't just get a certificate, you trigger the national labor laws.
Right.
Specifically, the Employees Provident Fund, the EPF.
The National Social Security and Pension Tax.
Exactly. If you are formal, you are legally obligated to pay a combined 23% of your employees' wages into this fund every single month.
Almost a quarter of your entire payroll.
Yeah.
Siphon off. Gone.
Yes.
For a guy running a 4-person auto shop on razor-thin margins, losing 23% of his labor cost means he literally cannot feed his own family. It is a death sentence for the business.
That is the crushing cost of the light. Now let's look at the other side of the ledger. What is the cost of staying in the dark?
The risk of getting caught. The looming threat of the tax inspector.
The researchers wanted to know just how dangerous the dark really was. So they looked at the actual real-world data on penalties.
And
If you operate an informal, unregistered business of this size in Sri Lanka, what are the mathematical chances you actually get slapped with a fine by the government?
what is the risk? 10%, 5%,
0.05%.
5 in 10,000.
A microscopic, almost invisible fraction of a percent. The enforcement is practically non-existent.
They are stupid.
Not at all.
Why on earth would you voluntarily surrender a quarter of your entire payroll, which will actively bankrupt you, for a government benefit that we already proved doesn't exist, just to avoid a fine that will literally never happen?
It is the economic equivalent of buying extremely expensive volcano insurance when you live in the flat plains of Ohio. It makes absolutely no sense.
The businesses aren't failing to understand the system. They understand the system far better than the economists do. They live it.
They calculated the exact crushing weight of the red tape and the taxes, and they calculated the exact feather-light weight of the shadows. And they chose the shadows because it is the only way they survive.
But here is the massive, unexpected twist of this entire study. The psychological shockwave of the experiment.
Going legit didn't make them rich.
It absolutely did not.
But it drastically, fundamentally changed their minds about the society they live in.
This is one of the most profound findings in the entire paper.
It's fascinating.
The researchers surveyed the attitudes of the newly formalized business owners, the ones who took the cash. They asked them about their feelings toward the state over the 3-year tracking period.
What happened to their worldview?
Trust in the provincial government surged. Trust in the municipal government surged significantly.
Wait, really? The exact same local governments that forced them to run around for 8 days in Kandy begging for letters, they trust them more.
Yes, and it gets even crazier. Agreement with the statement, paying taxes is a duty of a good citizen, skyrocketed.
That is totally counterintuitive. If the system didn't make them any money, if they didn't get loans, why do they suddenly love the system?
Because the monster under the bed wasn't real. Think about it. When you are a ghost, the government is a terrifying abstraction. It's a looming threat. It is a giant boot hovering over your head that could drop and crush your livelihood at any moment.
You avoid them at all costs. You assume every bureaucrat is out to destroy you.
But once these business owners took the cash and were forced to interact with the state, once they actually walked into the municipal office, filed the paperwork, and realized the terrifying tax inspector behind the desk was just a bored, underpaid guy with a rubber stamp, the terror evaporated.
It demystified the beast. The abstraction became human.
Exactly. They realized the state wasn't a hyper-efficient machine built specifically to extort them. It was just a clunky bureaucracy. The relationship between citizen and state was repaired simply through exposure.
They felt like citizens, not fugitives.
There is an incredible, unquantifiable power in civic inclusion. Even if formalization doesn't immediately put cash in your pocket, simply having a recognized seat at the table, having your name on an official registry changes how you view your responsibility to your community.
You put the neon sign above your door, you pay your tiny fee, you are officially part of the city now.
You belong.
So we have spent this entire time doing a deep dive into Sri Lanka. We've walked the streets of Colombo and Kandy. We've looked at the ledgers of small auto shops and fish vendors. But if we pull the camera all the way back, is this just a quirk of one specific island nation in 2012?
Is this a localized phenomenon?
Not even close. The researchers wanted to test for global resonance. So they pulled massive, highly representative data sets from other developing countries, specifically Bangladesh and Mexico.
Completely different continents, vastly different cultures, entirely different government structures and histories.
But when you look at the data, it is the exact same pattern, the exact same graph.
It is a universal truth of the global economy.
If you plot the rate of formality against the size of the firm, specifically the number of employees, the curves for Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Mexico are virtually identical. They map right on top of each other.
Let me guess the shape of that curve. Microfirms stay hidden.
Universally, firms with under 5 employees are ghosts everywhere on Earth. Formality only scales with size. Once a firm hits 10, 15, or 20 employees, the curve spikes. They naturally step into the light.
Because at that size, you need the institutional leverage. A 20-person manufacturing plant needs the massive bank loans to buy heavy machinery. They need the corporate contracts to sustain payroll.
Right.
At that scale, the benefits of the light finally outweigh the 23% tax burden of the EPF.
Exactly. The informal economy isn't a symptom of a broken Sri Lankan policy. It isn't a local failure of education. It is a massive, unified, global consensus of the working class.
It is a rational, mathematically calculated worldwide exit from a system that demands taxes from the poor without giving them the actual tools they need to grow.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, the climax of decades of economic theory and billions of dollars in policy spending.
We have spent decades trying to trim red tape. We've spent fortunes trying to simplify forms, build apps, and force small businesses into the light by making the door look prettier.
We built a beautiful, frictionless door.
But without giving them the actual tools to grow once they walk through it.
We are just forcing them to pay a massive cover charge for a party they cannot attend.
We are demanding they join a club that serves them absolutely nothing.
When the ultimate tool they lack isn't a streamlined registration form. It isn't a digital app for paying their taxes more efficiently.
It is the literal ground they stand on.
Secure property rights, land ownership.
If a man does not legally own the dirt under his auto shop, he cannot leverage his business. He cannot offer collateral to get the bank loan.
No.
He cannot risk the visibility of advertising because the landlord might evict him to steal his customer base. He is completely paralyzed.
Hernando de Soto wasn't entirely wrong in his theory. He just focused his outrage on the wrong red tape.
Right.
The true barrier isn't the 1,000 rupee business registration fee. The true barrier is the oral lease on the temple land.
We've been aggressively treating the symptom for 20 years while completely ignoring the disease.
Precisely. We keep trying to put a fresh coat of paint on a house that has no foundation.
So let's wrap this incredible journey up. We started by looking at an economy like a medical diagnosis. Clean, binary, an X-ray of broken or not broken.
But the reality is a messy, highly rational survival game played in the shadows.
Red tape is a convenient excuse for politicians, a distraction. The real barrier is a fundamental lack of hard assets. And the real driver of the ghost economy is extreme, cold, calculating logic.
The micro-entrepreneur, the guy fixing your radiator in the dust, is arguably the most ruthlessly rational actor on the global stage. He has to be, or he starves.
Think about the businesses in your own community right now. The food truck parked on the corner, the guy fixing cracked iPhone screens in a tiny kiosk at the mall, the endless side hustles that keep the city humming.
Think about the invisible, razor-thin math they are doing in their heads every single day just to survive.
We look at them from our offices and think they need to be brought into the system. We arrogantly think the system will save them.
But the hard data proves the system is entirely hollow for the little guy.
So here is a final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. Think about the foundation of our entire modern economy. For decades, we have kept trying to change the rules of the game to force people to play.
We make the dice lighter. We print the instructions in a friendlier, easier to read font. We offer them cash to sit at the table.
But what if the ultimate answer isn't changing the rules of the game? What if the answer is giving them the actual land they need to build their own board?
Until we solve the fundamental question of who owns the ground they stand on, the shadows will always be the safest, smartest place to do business.
Because you can't X-ray a ghost,
Yeah.
and you cannot build an empire on clouds.